pinkish, reddish shirt, lots of deep red fruit, deliciousness, Cabra, Rwanda Shyria. Coincidence? I think not. Hello, people who love coffee, fellow coffee lovers, and people of the internet who are super into coffee. My name is Haley. I think I just said 3 of the same things in different ways. I'm your local neighborhood resident Q grader, coming at you live from Fellows storefront and playground to talk to you about this super awesome Rwanda Shyria, washed Rwanda Shyria that we are dropping from none other than Cabra in Denmark, and with cafes in New York actually, so if you're in New York, go visit Cabra. I am super excited to tell you about a slightly different recipe that we're doing today. It's partially from suggestions from the roaster themselves, from Cabra, and partially adjusted and dialed by yours truly. So before I talk about why this coffee is so delicious, let's get into how I'm brewing it. For starters, I'm actually at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, suggestions from Cabra for coffee that is 2 to 6 weeks off roast, which I'm using coffee that is about 2.5 weeks off roast. So I'm right at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. I ground at 5.2 with Ode Gen 2, which is a 6.2-ish with Ode plus SSP, and a 4.2 on Ode Gen 1. This is mid to leaning into the coarse side of your grind settings on Opus. And yeah, so you're doing kind of a medium-coarse grind setting, right? My total brew time on this is gonna probably be above 4 minutes for my water here, and for, you know, all of the atmospheric conditions in San Francisco, I'm coming out at past 4 minutes for every brew that I do and I like on this dial. Cabra for this far off roast recommends a specific range of extraction, and I'm right at the low end of that, 1.47% TDS. If you want me to talk more about TDS, leave a comment in the comment section, which is about 20.45% extraction rate. Again, at this extraction rate with this recipe, I'm really, really loving the taste, but feel free to experiment. I'm using 22 grams of coffee into 350 grams out. I'm doing a 4-stage pour. I bloomed actually at 80 grams of water, again, suggested by the roaster. I did 5 swirls, a little bit longer after my first pour, and that gets a little bit of agitation going, especially as we're brewing at a lower temperature. And then I will do about 15 gentle swirls, so 15 gentle rotations after my last pour, when the water level gets low enough to swirl without getting anything over the edges, right? You don't want to swirl and then just slosh a bunch of slurry around, get coffee grounds outside of the filter, what have you. Also, before we get to those 15 gentle swirls, want to suggest some espresso stuff that was also suggested by Cabra. You want to wait for your coffee to be about 3 weeks off roast for espresso, for peak flavor delineation or peak flavor development. Once you let your coffee rest for about 3 weeks, it's suggested to pull at a 1-to-2 ratio. So I'm thinking like 17 grams of coffee to 38 grams out, suggested in 30 to 35 seconds, so adjust your grind settings accordingly. 1 second while we do those 15 swirls. So quick, but gentle, not like crazy vigorous. You don't have to get super into it, just getting everything even, settling the bed of grounds, making sure everything's soaked evenly, and getting a little bit extra agitation for this recipe. Anyway, as I was saying, espresso, 30 to 35 seconds, machine's probably at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's perfect. And this is meant for 9 bars of pressure throughout. What we're tasting in the cup, just so many delicious flavors of like deep, tart red fruit in a pleasant way. Lots of citrus, really nice like florals, specifically hibiscus and that sort of like tropical floral. Just a lot of delicious characteristics in those respects in this coffee. Also, I was getting a little bit of honey and some nice spices, maybe a little bit of nutmeg as like a supporting character, just delicious. As always, it is easy to order from Fellow Drops. All you have to do is text us back the number of bags you'd want, 1, 2, however many, and we'll send you coffee. If you don't want any coffee, don't text us back and we will not send you coffee or charge you. We'll just text you next week with the next selection. I am always stoked to have you here. My name is and has been Haley, Q Grader, with Fellow. And I'm stoked to see you next week with the next brew guide video. Please, as always, let us know any questions, comments, or just drop a line in the comment section. And thank you. I look forward to seeing you next week.